So we're in the last video. In this one, what we're going to do is use mask to shape our light, and we're also going to add some finishing touches to our colors. So in here, what I like to do is just look at the overall photo and see if there's any adjustments I need to make to the lights or the shadow areas. And looking at our photo, I think there's no need. But if there's any changes I have to make, I'll do that after I have, controlled or shaped my light. So what I would like to do is now go into this tab and then choose the radial gradient. And what I'm going to do is just select what we have as the face or where the light is actually hitting. Now we're going to control where we want the viewers to see when they look at our photo. And that is using the this radial mask to just select that part of the face where the light is hitting so that we can control that. Now what is happening is we have the middle part of the radial tool moving from red, and then as it goes further out, it becomes transparent. That means our middle part is going to be affected more. As it leaves it, it's going to be affected less. We don't want that. So what we want to do is just invert the selection. Now what we have is everything outside of this selection, which is the part being affected by red, is going to be more affected by any changes that we make in here, and towards the center is going to lose that changes. Okay, so this is what we want, and I'm just going to open it up a little bit, right? The main idea is to control and drive everything else into this part of the image, so that when you look at our photo, you can see that this is where we want you to look. So with that selected, I'm just going to hide the overlay, and this is what we have. What I'm going to do next is just bring down my exposure, right? A little bit. We don't want to go extreme because we are going to show, right, or uncover any sort of selection that we've made. We don't want that. We want all the transition to be as smooth as possible. So the kind of shape we want is something along this line, not too much, right? Now in this case, you can see that the hot spot is happening over here. Okay, so we're just seeing everything that is happening on the forehead. What we can do is just to bring it down a little bit, right, and dim it up a bit, or put it on our eye so that the concentration can be there. But I like to open it up a bit across the board like that. Right, and then we can add more to it. So this is working well. Now this case is where I'll go back into my basic panel and say, hey man, I like the way this is affecting everything around, but the hot spot in the middle is a no-no. So I'll go to my highlights in the basic panel, which is affecting everything, and then just bring it down a touch, right? Not too much. I can go back now to my max and just select max 1 for the vignette or whatever. And then I can play around with it a little bit, not too much, right? Another thing I also want to do is that normally I like the subject to pop out of the background or the photo more, okay? And I'm going to use the available light in the scene to do that. What I can do is I can make a selection of the subject this way, right? We are selecting everything in the photo as the subject. We have the subject selected, sorry. And what I'm going to do is subtract using the linear gradient, and then I'm going to subtract towards the light. Okay, so it is still coming in from the same direction as our light source. If I bring it up here, you can see that the light is somewhere here and it's coming this way. What I want to do is make sure this part of the body, okay, I'm trying to make you have a sense of the body being hit by light. So everything that is towards the light, which is in red, is going to be affected, and everything that is not affected is everything below here. So when I hide it and I go to my exposure and I add a bit of exposure, let me go extreme and see. You can see that this part of the face that we use the gradient for is being affected, okay? But we don't want to put our exposure to this number. Let's break it back down and affect it just a little bit. Remember, less is more, okay? So I want to expose it a little bit to this side, not too much, okay? Let me break it back down. Somewhere around here is okay. So I'll go back to my gradient tool again and then break it back down. Let me turn it this way. Okay. In this way, my subject is gonna pop out. Another thing you can also do is, let's feather it out some more, right? Another thing we can also do is just, let's label it. Let's call this our pop out. And we can call this one vignette. All right, great. We have this for that. Great. So what we're gonna do next is select our pop-out layer, and we're gonna right click it and duplicate and invert the max. Now, before we do that, let's check out how it looks like. If I select my gradient tool, it is telling us everything. Let's show overlay. It is telling us that everything that is being hit in this red section over here is going to be affected by what? The exposure that we changed over here, right? What I want to do is invert that. So when I go and duplicate and invert the mask, what we are saying is, hey man, still, I want you to affect everything that we have, okay? Other than what you affected in the pop-out area, affect everything else. But now the problem that we're having is, it has affected it and it also included what? The background. You don't want that. So what I'm also going to do again is to subtract the background from it. When I hit that, it's going to subtract the background. And now we have all the selection that we had in inverse, okay? So we had this one from before, which was selecting just the side of the face. And now we have this one, right? Which is selecting the other side of the face. What we can do again is to select our gradient and then bring it back some more. And what I want to do here is to darken it. So I'm going to darken it some more and put the side down. All because I want you to have the assumption that the light is hitting our head is popping out and blocking the light. So everything that is behind here is catching shadow. Okay. So this is where I'm going to put it. And I think we're going to keep it here. Then I'm just going to go back in here, try to expose my shadows a little bit more, that it can blend inside a little bit. This is what we have, right? And then I'm going to go to my tone curve and lift up my blacks a little bit, not too much, somewhere here. And then I'm going to hold the shadow areas and bring it down some more, not too much. Okay, the rest is okay. Let's bring this one up a little bit. Bring it back up, and let's bring it back up instead. Somewhere right here. You can zoom in and check to see what we have. Okay, I think our shadows are lifted. We can bring it back down a little bit, somewhere around like 1. All right, let's put it on 2. Is okay. I like this. Let's go back into our shadows and play around with it a little bit. All right, I like what we have here. And let's see whether decreasing our highlights is going to give us a look or increasing it. When we increase it, the hotspot here becomes so much. I don't want that. Okay, we can do that and then go back to the curves layer and then bring the hotspot down. Okay, I like what it's giving me, but it looks a little flat. So let me increase the section a little bit. Not really. Let's back it up and let's go back to our highlights and bring it down instead. Okay. So yeah, like I said, this part is all about just playing around and seeing what fits. Okay. So we push and pull some of these sliders up till we get something that we actually like. The dehaze can also help smooth in the shadows too as well. But I don't want to go extreme and just make everything all flat again. Right. What I can do is just add a little bit or go to the detail part. But dehaze is also going to add, what's the name? Saturation to everything. And that's not what we also want. So let's back it up. What I want to do with it is just a -1 should be okay, or -2. Right. And then let's go into our tone curve now and do some manipulation there too. So let's bring our darks down a little bit. Not too much. I'm paying attention to the transition that it's having. Okay, boom. Now, fun part. So now we're going to move on to color mixer. What we're going to do is bring the luminance value of reds down. Okay, I like to have my reds now more deeper. Okay, so I'll bring it down and see, we're not even affecting anything in the skin. Have you seen that? Unlike what we had in Photoshop when we're using selective color. In Lightroom, I think it's very absolute in its selection, so it's able to identify what are purely reds and what are not. So we're not affecting anything in the face or the eyes or anything like the skin, or rather the lips, which is supposed to be red, and then the red cloth, right? what I like to do is just add some saturation to that, a little bit more, and then we're going to shift the hue a lot more towards the red direction. This is good. Let's break it back a little bit more, and let's go back and then darken it some more. I like this, right? So the next step, we can further add some gray to our colors. What I like to do is just push it towards something warm a little bit. Remember, less is more. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it around something here, something here, right? And then I'm going to go to my highlights first and then take it to the greenish tones or the greenish hues. Not too much. Sometimes I can just keep it around the blues. We're going to play around it until we get something nice, okay? We can keep it around here. Let's back it up and see what we have. Yeah, somewhere here is better. Okay, not too much. Let's see. Great. And then the mid-tones can fall between where we set our fast darker points, right? And where we set our light points. We can set our mid-tones in between anything here. What we're telling Lightroom is to just make the transition from our shadows to our highlights in a more smooth manner, okay? If you set it around somewhere here, the transition might be bad. Since this part is closer in hue to those over here, what we like to do is I want to set it somewhere around here, okay? So I'll find a place that really blends well. That is for my mid-tones. Let's go to the mid-tones. All right, so I'm just gonna find something in between that works. Okay, not too much. And I'll keep it there, somewhere around here. All right, and I'm just gonna keep it here and I'll dial my saturation down. Somewhere around like ish. It's okay. All right. Zoom in a bit to see what we have. Good, I like this. And perhaps we can go and do some blending with these guys, okay? Since I like to have more of the greenish tones in the skin, the idea is also that the background is green and it's spilling into the skin, so you have to blend it a lot well. If you go here, it's okay, but I like to make sure everything blends well and the transitions are all smooth, even with color, okay? So we'll push it here a little bit. What we are saying is take all of our highlight tones, which are in the greenish cyan hues over here, and shift it in a little bit. I'm not going to touch the balance. This is okay. This balance is okay. All right, and I'm going to go to collaboration now. We have everything in the stream now. So what I can do is either go to my blue primaries or my green primaries, and then break it down a touch, okay? And bring these guys down a touch. And then we can make it more muddy and deep. So this here is okay, right? If we look at before, after, you can see that before had our light hitting the entire photo at different parts, the chest area. So the minute you look at the photo, you can see your eyes is drawn to everywhere, right? But now we've shaped the light to have something that looks more profound. It is hitting the face, so your eyes can be directed towards the face of the model a lot better, right? If you zoom in, this is what we have. And when you go below, there's no concentration there for light, so our eyes can be drawn here. There's detail everywhere. We didn't lose any because of the techniques that we used. So what I like to do next is go to the effects and then add grain. For the sake of Instagram, that is where I usually post. What I've come up with is putting my grain at 41. Right, the amount at 41 is what we have. And then I'll increase the size up a bit to somewhere around like 37-ish. Right, it's okay. Roughness is always the same. So I keep it here. It's a lot more and you can be able to see it if you post it on Instagram. Right, so this is where we're gonna stop our edit now. We're gonna back it off. And let's recap a little bit. This is our final image. And you can congratulate yourselves. You've completed this comprehensive photo editing tutorials with me. Let's recap what we've learned so far. In the first video, we started off by looking at color correction and creating a base look in Lightroom. In the second video, we looked at cleaning up our photo, dodging and burning to naturally retouch our photo in Photoshop. In the third video, we moved on to adding depth, polishing our image, and pre-grading our photo. And finally, we came back into Lightroom to adjust our grades and add finishing touches. Remember, practice makes perfect. Apply these techniques to your own photos and don't be afraid to experiment. It's all in the experimentation. If you find this series helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with other photographers. Until next time, thanks for watching and happy editing.